Hello, I'm Candid Frank Stanishi of News Talk. Welcome to Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on News Talk, joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Hello, Aaron.
Hey, Frank.
Well, you know, I hope my buddy David's doing okay. He had to go to a doctor. He was having a little bit of trouble, a little too much development in the chest, you know, where liquid, and so that's a little scary. But as it is today, we do doctors by Zoom. So we Zoom with doctors today. So that's what he was doing today.
Dave's a pretty resilient guy. I'm reasonably certain he'll be back up on his feet before too long. So here's to hoping.
I think he'll be fine. I hope he will, and that's all that matters in regards to that. Okay, let's start what we've got to talk about. In Canada, we've got Alberta having a problem with racist mayoral candidate.
Yes, there was a gentleman by the name of Kevin J. Johnston who ran in Mississauga against Bonnie Crombie. Got to about 10,000 votes, which in and of itself is concerning enough. But he wanted to go to schools and record teenagers at prayer services because he claimed that Muslims were threatening to kill all Canadians. He's also been associated with various alt-right groups and is now running against Naheed Nenshi in Calgary for mayor there. Well, also affiliated with a street preacher and his political candidate brother, that's Artur and David Pawlowski, who were also arrested in Calgary for having anti-mask protests. So that lets you know where he's coming from.
Okay, so we're kind of not pushing for him to become the mayor of Calgary. Is that where we sit?
I mean, he's been charged with hate crimes, so you know, I'd rather we not.
I see behind me there's a Canadian flag. Okay, I just want you to know where my allegiance lies. Yeah. Okay, fine. Look, you know, I spend a lot of time walking, walking around, and every so often I see a pile of excrement, and sometimes the best choice when it comes to when you run into excrement is just to walk by. Canadian refugee adjudicators. I didn't tell you about this one. This one is crazy. If you look up Canadian refugee adjudicators, they're asked to give offensive and insensitive answers to, well, insensitive questions, right? This is something, you know, when they come in to be a refugee, you have to answer. I get that you have to answer tough questions, Aaron. I don't know what to think of this. Like, if you ask a woman the reason she's coming to Canada, is you say, well, did you get raped? Is that why you're coming? Like, is there not a form that they can fill out? And then we don't have to say this stuff out loud in court. You know what I'm getting at? You understand what I'm saying?
This sort of behavior is absolutely beyond the pale. None of that is acceptable. And asking someone why they're in therapy for an extended period of time is not acceptable. Asking someone if they know who the father of their child is not acceptable behavior by any stretch of the imagination. I got the impression that this is something that has been going on for an extended period of time. This isn't exactly a recent development.
It's not that, you know, let's be fair too, to the way the system works. The system needs some sort of corroboration, some sort of confirmation that there are issues and that people are coming in here for the reason that they say. You know, coming to Canada or any country in the world, you don't get to have a blank check. You don't just get to say, hey, look, I'm here because I was hurt, or I was this, or I was that. It's only fair that people ask, okay, so how were you hurt? But it doesn't have to be an open court. It doesn't have to be public. It can be handled more sensitively, more privately, and I would think, Aaron, with either experts in dealing with people who are dealing with those kinds of issues. You know, we don't expect a woman who's been raped to just be hung out to dry and start explaining without any kind of social assistance, if I'm making myself clear, help in having the conversation. You know, I just hope this isn't stuff that, you know, here we are in the middle of a courtroom and there's 12 other people waiting for their court moment. There's no way that in court, we don't always have to know everything in court. There can be an agreement between parties to keep things, I don't know. I just don't think humiliating somebody is the way to go. And that's what I'm talking about. We shouldn't be raising humiliation as an option to, you know, for someone to enter into Canada. Okay, now you need to tell us out loud what your problem is. You get what I'm saying?
No, I don't think any victim should ever have to relive or relitigate their own circumstances for being here. That's entirely unacceptable behavior.
But I do understand that if someone is entering the country for a reason, that they should be asked to clarify and substantiate what the reason is. I understand that. I want to look at both sides here, folks. This isn't a one-sided thing. This is a two-sided coin. Okay, so President Biden has to deal with this ransomware attack. It, of course, is on a pipeline, a colonial pipeline. This is scary stuff because this has a huge impact on the economy, obviously. Also, all the controls and all the switches that operate these, you know, this pipeline are under the control of the ransomware people, or could be. That's got to be concerning. It hits on every level of basic security for a country, our own security.
Well, and the group DarkSide, that's the group that took over with the ransomware in the first place, indicated that they weren't looking to create problems for society. Their goal was just to make money. So they decided that the best way to do that was hitting the Colonial Pipeline, which carries 2.5 million barrels of oil a day, which is 45% of the East Coast supply of diesel, petrol, and jet fuel every day. The operator took itself offline on Friday after the cyber attack, and they're currently still working. They've been working through the weekend to try to get them back online.
They've got some of the smaller pipeline is running, but the major ones are not, and that's a major concern. Yeah, it's crazy. Washingtonian staff goes on publishing strike after CEO's op-ed about remote work. You knew this was coming, Aaron. We've already heard that because of remote work, and you work remotely, that there's a temptation for some employers to say, well, you don't have to drive into work. We don't think we should pay you that full salary. And then here in this case, they're talking about it makes you more prone to be fired.
Well, Kathy Merrill is the chief executive of the District of Columbia Centered magazine, and I want to get her name out there because people need to be aware of how this individual for this organization thinks. Her quote directly from the Washington Post article is, "As a CAO, I want my employees to understand the risks of not returning to work in the office." To which everybody said, "So you're gonna try to fire us then if that sort of thing happens?" This I think was a trial balloon on her part. She was sort of feeling everything out to try to get an impression for how much she could potentially get away with when it came back to going back to the office full time, and who she could potentially get rid of by the amount of ruckus that is kicked up by this sort of thing.
Yeah, and, yeah. Well, you know what? You're not as efficient if you're not working in the office. That's from the perspective of the employer, you're responsible for getting to work and getting home. But you, as far as your efficiency is concerned, starts when you start working, which is leaving to go to work and coming home. I'm trying to see things both ways. You get what I'm getting at? That there is a benefit to working from home. The question is working from home as efficient as working in the office? I know for a fact that not everything is and not everything isn't. I just don't know the difference.
Yeah, at
I
this
don't
point
know.
here, though, let's be honest, Frank, a lot of employees are having an issue with bosses emailing them after work hours and expecting responses because you're
Oh,
working from home and your computer is there. Therefore, you should be answering my emails. And now this is something that now it hasn't happened to me directly, but I know other people that are working from home continue to get work emails even after working hours, and their bosses expect them to action those even if it's after working hours, which, when we're talking about work-life balance, skews everything the wrong way.
Here, let me give you an
So,
example of being an employee and dealing with upper management. I don't work for them anymore, so I can tell this story, and this is an interesting one in my mind. I was building a public building. Uh, it was a fire department and EMS building, and I had a boss who would say to me, "So what are you doing today? This is what we're doing. Are you going to be able to get this done? Are you going to meet this deadline?" Well, to meet this deadline, you have to work late on Friday, maybe come in on Saturday. So I'm working late on Friday and it's like 8, 9 o'clock and I'm doing my paperwork. Of course, after everybody leaves, I still got to do my reports, as you may imagine, because my reports don't begin until everybody leaves, because that's how reports work. So I get a phone call. Yeah. Hey, Frank, how's it going? Did you get that stuff done? I said, yeah, it's 9 o'clock. I have to stay here 3, 4 hours later. How's it going? Did it all work out? I said, yeah, it's fine. And I hear splashing in the background. And I said, oh, are you okay? I think I hear some water. He goes, yeah, that's the pool. I'm at the cottage. So he went to the cottage and he called me from the cottage while he's sitting beside the pool, having a drink and asking me, how are things going on Friday of a long weekend? I said, PJ Keen. So, I have no sympathy for bosses. And I've had little sympathy for employees too. Like I said, I don't know how to look at that situation because, as far as I'm concerned, you cannot judge everybody with one set of rules, right? Because circumstances are different. But, we were forced to work from home like we're doing right now. And now, when things go back to normal and everybody goes back to work, the fear that some people have, and I could hear it in your voice, is I want you to come to work just because I want you to come to work. That's what scares people. And if they don't want to go to work, then what happens then? And if they get fired because they're not willing to go to work in a situation where they're going to have an argument about whether they're efficient enough to do the work, that's where all of a sudden, you end up with workers' rights entering entering the fray, and it's going to be a whole new package, Aaron.
no, and it's a fine line to tread between work-life balance, especially when you're working from home. And it's the new reality that we're going to have to navigate. I know certain employers are sending out quote questionnaires and surveys to sort of gauge what their employees want to do and if they feel they're being more efficient. Um, Currently, speaking for myself and myself only, I actually believe that I'm actually able to get a little bit more work done working from home, just because some of the responsibilities that take up the most time for me have been decentralized. The company has shifted so that, for example, if things need to be mailed, that's now handled by a centralized team that work out of the office where there are printers.
Right.
Before, it used to have to be I would have to print everything, compile everything, put it in here, get it in the mail and everything like that. Now we drop everything in a folder. The team at the office checks that folder twice a day, once at 11:30, once at 3:30, prints whatever's in there, and boom, out it goes. That in and of itself is way more efficient for us than having to sit around and do it here. And it meets the company's mandate of having 20% staffing in the office because there are teams there to take care of that.
Yeah, just imagine, your responsibilities when your job description is going to include, now it's going to include not only what education you had, but whether you're willing to drive into work or not.
Hey, if
That's
they'll pay
gonna,
mileage,
that's
I'll
going to
do it.
be that's going to be in the job description. That you do realize that in this job you have to drive to work. Say what now? So it'll be interesting to say the least. Let's move on to England. Great Britain. Boris Johnson under investigation over £15,000 a 15,000-pound Mystique holiday. Mystique?
Yes. Yeah, he's been spending a lot of money going to Mystique. So they're trying to determine whether or not he properly declared the holiday. He and his partner Kerry Simmons took the trip back in 2019 after he won the election in 2019. But they're still trying to make sure that he followed the rules throughout the entire process here. This is a guy that just can't seem to avoid scandal, whether it's his handling of the COVID or other things. Getting stuck on a zip line during the London Olympics in 2012, behavior towards female staffers. It's all part and parcel.
Well, his checkered past, also, to be fair to him, if I can be fair to him, sometimes we hear reports that are half-baked and not complete. So in this case, we know that it's not complete, but we don't know if it's half-baked or not. So, it is what it is. Politicians are under a lot of stress right now, and they're dealing with stuff. As far as I'm concerned, when we hear what happened, great, and the people in England and Great Britain deal with it. That's fantastic. Bringing it back to Canada, when it comes to COVID, 2 million Pfizer-BioNTech doses are going to be part of the rollout. Good news for Canadians.
Finally getting more. And it's because provinces are now expanding their rollouts. Of course, we have to make sure that we have the adequate supply. Moderna is only delivered every 3 weeks, so that's not due to come until next week. But we do have 2 million doses that are supposedly due this week. In the start of May, by the start of May, we were supposed to have about 2.4 million, I think, a week coming in all the way through the month of June. So that's good. We're also expecting another 650,000 AstraZeneca shots to come in as well. So there's that looking up on that front.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that the Ontario stay-at-home order may be extended.
June 2nd.
May be extended.
I've got the feeling it's going to be until at least June 2nd at this point here. If things keep up the way that they're going with 3,000 plus cases a day, even with dropping testing levels, odds are we're going to be, in lockdown until Canada Day at least, which is, that's fine for me. I don't really go anywhere anyways, so.
Okay, the EU insists that the dispute they're having with AstraZeneca is only contractual. It has nothing to do with the vaccine and the problems that we learned about earlier. Is it? Is that what it's about? Are we clear here?
I'd like to take them at their word for it. I think it'd be nice every once in a while to have a straightforward story as simply as them pausing using AstraZeneca because they're not living up to their terms of the contract because they haven't sent enough in the first place. So
it is what it is.
Right.
Whatever we can get in Canada and put in our arms in the rest of the world, hopefully they keep producing it and keep, as fast as they can. And for every time that we hear that when the uptick on people receiving the vaccine is threatened by the fact that now we're getting into the group of people who aren't so sure they want to do it, whether it's because they don't trust it, whether they want to wait till they're sure, or they're not going to take it at all, right? We still have to produce because the whole world needs this thing because, it's the gift that keeps giving. If we don't take care of everybody, it all comes around, what goes around comes around. And we all know about all these extra strains that have come out. They're all because people aren't getting the vaccine is fast enough, or we're not able to help people to be protected from this terrible virus. Let's go to sports, and we'll start with Connor McDavid. He's hit 100 points. That in a regular season, 100 points is a feat. To do it in less than 56 games, it's more. That's
pretty fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, and the other people to do it, I believe their names were Yager and Lemieux. Both of them did it. I believe Lemieux did it in 38 games, and Yager did it in 55. So we're looking at some very, very elite company that Connor's currently sitting in. Whether or not he'll be able to progress further because he's in Edmonton, we won't know for sure. But
did you see that post, which was very enlightening, and it made me go, you know, the one where they showed the goaltenders from when Lemieux was playing and when Yager were playing, and then showed the goalies now that McDavid is playing against. You know, you've got the Michelin Man, and then you got, I don't know, the straw man.
Back then, I was going to say, back then, everybody looked like somebody on the team's kid brother was playing for them, you know? Just the newspaper strapped to the pads. Don't drop into the butterfly. Your pads will get wet. You'll never be able to get back up again.
And their heads were below the bar when they were in the crouch. Now you got goaltenders who are on their knees, butterfly, and their heads are above the bar.
Well, bigger seems to be the trend ever since, you know, you got goalies like Ben Bishop, who was 6 foot something, and Anderson, who's 6'4", and, you know, it just Tuukka Rask, they just throw raw meat into his cage every morning. He's about 9 feet tall.
So you got the goalie equipment, then you got the flex sticks, right? The non sticks. So, you know, it's cat and mouse, baby, cat and mouse. You know, the Flames are having a bit of a battle as far as points are concerned. Gaudreau and Tkachuk.
Yeah, they've had 3-point nights now for a while. They're technically not quite out of the race yet, so that's something to see. If Montreal loses and Calgary continues to win, then they could potentially find themselves in the playoff race. That's something we can touch on Saturday afternoon after all said and done.
Calgary's vote, they're cheering for Edmonton. And I guess they should. John Tortorella is probably going to be on the move again, another $1 million contract. There's rumors that he's headed to New York. The New York Rangers are needing peoples.
Again, interesting. Interesting that they bring him back, I believe, for a third time now. His time limit, his shelf life seems to be about 6 years. So, you know, like Twinkies, he's going to last pretty much forever. But when they go bad in a hurry. So he's already confirmed he won't be back next season. So we'll have to see where he ends up.
Kyle Lowry of the Toronto Raptors receives an honorary doctorate. Congratulations to him.
Indeed. He said he's going to be calling himself the Doctor of Greatness.
And he should be the Doctor of Greatness. DK Metcalf, 100-meter run. Race, I should say. World-class speed. Should defenders be concerned in the NFL?
Yes. 6'4", 229 pounds, able to do 100 meters in 10.37 and a 40-yard dash in what, 4 1/4? 4 seconds flat, something like that. It's a guy definitely to be feared.
We talked about the Super League recently. Juventus is they're threatening to remove them. They might get removed from Serie A.
Yeah, and on top of that, Juventus has been having some other troubles keeping themselves in the top 4 in the league. On top of the fact that the Super League isn't necessarily proceeding, they managed to find themselves on the wrong end of the score against AC Milan 3-0 the other day. So, Super League, not so super.
You know, and we didn't talk about the Leafs. They've got games left against Winnipeg and Ottawa. Very important, very critical to prepare for the end. We talked about Vancouver may or may not play games. The North Division is really interesting, and the rest of the divisions, except for I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking in the standings. They're saying that Dallas still has a chance, or do they? I'm confused about that. What's up with that?
It's very on the outside at this point. Of course, you remember that they did have to delay their start of the season by about 3 weeks.
Right.
They did finally manage to get mostly caught up. I'm just curious as to how they think that they could potentially make it in, because as it currently stands, the Discovery Central is already locked in. You got Carolina, Florida, Tampa, and Nashville. So it appears that Dallas is finally done. Yeah,
but they don't put them as done. If you notice, the official statistics.
It's up there now.
Oh, is it up there now? Because
yeah,
they were out like the other. There were 4 teams in, and they were still not out. And I was like, how can you do that? But anyway, thank you for clarifying that. That ends another show for us, Aaron. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Frank.
That's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frankston. Thank you for watching News Talk, seen live Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For News Talk, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thank you for watching. I'm Candid. Until next time, and that would be Wednesday.